The fields of Elith, nestled in the western reaches of Auren, glowed beneath a sun that had not yet known betrayal. Its green hills were speckled with yellow flowers and cut through by babbling brooks that danced over stones smoothed by time. The sky stretched above as a pale blue mantle, marked only by wisps of clouds drifting slowly like smoke, and the air carried the sweet scent of freshly cut grass, mingled with the earthy aroma of the surrounding farmlands. It was a generous land, where wheat grew tall and orchards bore fruit so heavy their branches bent to the ground. Yet even there, among the gentle rising mounds that dotted the horizon, the wind bore whispers, a low murmur, almost a warning, brushing the beech leaves and vanishing into the hum of bees. Few heard it, or perhaps few wanted to. Kale, a boy of 13 winters, ran along the beaten earth trails, his black hair tousled by the fresh air, his gray eyes bearing a wisdom that did not belong to his age. He was lean, yet his arms already showed the first signs of strength, shaped by long hours spent carrying buckets of water, splitting firewood for his mother, or training while awaiting his next sparring session with his father. He did not run for fun, like the other boys who chased butterflies or skipped stones across the stream. He ran because movement calmed him, because energy built up inside him and turned to irritation if left unchecked. He ran because the silence between each step was the only place he could escape the feeling that had followed him since he was a child. He did not smile much, and his lips rarely parted for the idle chatter that filled the village square. The children of Venth found him strange, not out of arrogance or contempt, but because he always seemed to look beyond, to the horizon, to the shadows that danced in the corners of his eyes when the sun dipped low, as if they played just beyond what others could see. Sometimes he would stand at the top of a hill, gazing at the horizon, fists clenched, as if waiting for something that never came. His only companion was Leora, a slender and gentle girl, with hair the color of ripe wheat and deep blue eyes that seemed to see the lightness that carried the leaves upon the wind. But many suns had passed since he last saw her. Her mother had given birth to another daughter, Tiana, who was born with some affliction Kale did not understand, and the mother did not survive, passing away during childbirth. Leora was then forced to grow up too soon, assuming, at least in part, the role her mother once held. Her childhood was cut short, and she began helping her father take care of the house. Whenever Kale returned from one of those solitary walks, the hot sun burning the back of his neck, he would hear the sound that made him stop, the rhythmic clang of hammer against iron, coming from the forge at the edge of the village. It was Auren, the blacksmith, a gray-bearded man with hands as broad as planks, who worked with a crooked smile while telling tales of old battles. Kale liked listening to him, not for the exaggerated feats, but for the sound of metal bending to someone's will. It was something he understood, something he could touch. He felt drawn to the vibration of hammer and steel. He approached, hesitant, and Auren looked up, wiping the sweat from his brow.
Back again, boy? Has your father given you a real sword yet, or is he still making you play with sticks?
He says I'm too young.
Torith never thinks anyone's ready until they've broken a few bones. You will see.
Kale shrugged, the corner of his mouth rising into an almost smile. Auren laughed, a hoarse sound like the wind across the hills. Ahead, the village of Venth rose, nestled in the valley like a nest of stone and timber. Crooked-roofed houses leaned against one another, their gray stone walls filled with wooden beams, marked by moss and cracks that spoke of years of rain and sun. Twisting fences made from interwoven branches barely held in the grunting pigs and the chickens pecking at the dry earth, jostling for space. The smell of fresh bread mixed with the distant clang of Auren's forge, while voices echoed through the square. Women carrying baskets of fresh fish from the river, men debating the size of the next harvest, and children shouting in games of chase and hide that Kale never quite understood. In the central square, an old fountain spilled a thin stream of water, its sound as it fell into the stone basin mingling with the buzzing of flies dancing in the warm air. At the far western edge of the village stood the tower of Valthor Arden, a black basalt spire that pierced the sky like a forgotten spear from ancient times, its narrow windows glinting with the reflection of the setting sun. It was a symbol of strength, yes, but also an echo of battles few remembered, and of knowledge long lost in the folds of time. In the background, like a silent frame, loomed the mists of the great sea, a gray mass of rock and smoke through which no Auren had ever passed. Cale paused for a moment, his feet grounded in the earth, eyes fixed on the tower. There was something about it that unsettled him, not the dark stone or the weight of its shadow, but the stories the elders told around the fire, of times when different men ruled with technologies that no longer existed. He shook his head, pushing the thought aside, and continued toward home, the distant caw of a crow echoing in his ears like a warning he could not decipher. On one of those days, beneath the high sun of a summer that seemed eternal, Torith appeared on the village path, his armor clinking with each step, the frayed edges of his red cloak fluttering in the wind. Embroidered on it, the golden griffin of House Arden shone proudly. Cale ran to meet him, forgetting for a moment the shadows that haunted him.
Hold tight, boy,
said Torith, his voice rough but warm, handing him a wooden sword he had carved himself. Wrapping his large arm around his son, he placed a hand on his shoulder, and they walked home chatting cheerfully. Torith and Lysara's house, set apart from the village, was by far the largest. A low wall of black stones, like those of the tower, surrounded the property from end to end, enclosing the 5-room home, the garden Lysara tended with care, filled with every kind of herb one could imagine, a large yard for daily tasks, their own well, and a small stable for Epona, a mare cherished by his father. She had served in many battles, and with her white and golden coat, still bore the strength and cunning worthy of a warhorse. They spent the afternoon in the yard behind the house, the packed earth marked with grooves from past training. The clang of blades echoed, sweat dripped onto the dry soil, and Torith corrected each strike with firm instruction.
Keep your elbow up, Cale. You're not cutting grass, you're facing a man.
Cale would smile then, a rare flash of lightness, because those moments were more real than any chant or book. They were his and his father's, a bond the world could not touch. Lysara, his mother, was like something out of a tale. Her delicate face carried gentle expressions, her long, dark brown hair flowing like leaves in the wind, and her green eyes were so clear they seemed to reflect the purity of a field bathed in the soft light of morning, as if dawn itself had nested in her gaze. Her voice was so sweet that even the birds would pause their morning songs to listen. Her past did not conceal the life she had lived before meeting Torith. She had once been one of the Heralds of the Lume, an ancient and mystical order that safeguarded the secrets of wisdom through music and poetry, an art her hands still knew, and which she tried to pass on to her disinterested son while weaving baskets or spinning wool beside the hearth. She cared nothing for wealth or titles, nor for the judgmental glances of the village women, which, were it not for her husband's importance and influence, would surely have turned to open hostility. Her true treasure was Cale, her first and only son, whom she raised with gentle hands and a sharp mind. Sometimes, at dusk, when the sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, Lysara would take Cale beneath the great willow near the house, its wide canopy swaying like a living veil. There, seated on the thickest root, she would unroll worn scrolls and teach him letters, tracing their curves with a stick in the earth. She showed him how to grind herbs to heal cuts or fevers, the acrid scent of crushed leaves filling the air, explained the workings of all kinds of tools, and sang the first chants of the Lume, her voice making the wind seem to dance in soft circles around them.
In the lands of Lyranthia, where the wind holds its secret, the Rivers sing in murmurs time can never trace. There the skies speak in ancient tongues, and wisdom dwells in the roots of dawn.
Strength isn't everything, my little one.
She would say, laughing when he rolled his eyes, his feet restless, itching to run back to the yard. But Kale listened, even if he pretended otherwise, because her love was an anchor he didn't yet realize he needed. Lysara's teachings etched themselves into the boy's mind. Children always hold on to those moments, even when they seem not to be paying attention, and her lessons alone could have filled an entire story. One of those songs lingered in his memory, even though he tried to ignore it. A melody Lysara would sing softly, almost like a whisper, as the sun slipped behind the hills. Kale didn't know what it meant. Lyranthia was a name no one in the village recognized, a place unmapped and unknown. But the words clung to him, as if they were more than poetry, as if they carried a weight he would one day come to feel.
But move the heart with the weight of endless night. It is the eyes unafraid of the dark that see clearly, and in the stillness discover the soul within. The gold that gleams is not the one seen, but the one that lives within and shines.